So then let me just start with today's session. So what we basically have discussed in the last 2 sessions, we discussed the basic fundamental that, why do we really need the cloud, and what is the necessity of really using this cloud, and also the basic understanding that how the cloud really works in a kind of consumption model. And also we understood that how you actually can create maybe an account in the Azure cloud, and then how you actually can describe the subscription model in the Azure. So that is what we actually have seen till yesterday's demo. And today we will actually continue with the further topics. So let me just quickly share my screen so that I can just talk about the topics that we are actually going to discuss. So today, the topics which we are actually going to start with, we are actually going to start with our, these topics, manage Azure compute resources. So you can see there are really lots of topics with respect to this module. And this module is also pretty much important for your AZ 104 exam. So we will discuss these points in detail and step by step. So let us start with the very first topic that we have, creating a VM. So you already know, I mean, when you actually can see this Azure, so Azure basically contains lots of services and resources. And you can see on the left side, you can see how many services you have, such as infrastructure as a code, and also infrastructure as a service, and platform as a service, and software as a service. But you will come to know step by step that how exactly you can differentiate between platform as a service and also infrastructure as a service and also the software as a service. But if you don't understand at this point of time, there is no problem. So we will basically understand step by step. And then you also have understood the subscription, that what exactly the subscription. So I don't want to again talk about the subscription again. So now let us basically try to create a resource. Okay. So when you really want to create the resources, what you can do, you can also actually go from here and creating a resource. And you can also search for a particular resource from the search bar. Okay. But it could be easier if you really want to search from here, or else you actually can also create a resource. Okay. Before I actually create a resource, which resource that I want to create, I want to create a VM. So which is basically called a virtual machine. Yeah. So a virtual machine is basically one of the resources you can create in the Azure cloud. As I told you, cloud is basically operational expenditure model. It means whatever the configuration that you need, you actually can select the configuration yourself and then create the resource in order to use for your usage. So now today's topic to really to see how you can create a virtual machine, and also what are the other resources which are actually created as a just quickly show you what resources that we are actually going to create. So I hope you don't get any voice breaking from my side, right? Are you getting some voice breaking? Can somebody respond?
Yes, Lakshman. Voice breaking
Yeah.
is coming.
Okay. So then let me just change my internet connection. You can just unmute yourself and let me know. Yes. Okay. Is that fine now? Is this okay?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Uh, I'm just trying to connect other network which I have. So it should be fine now. Yeah. Is this okay now?
Yes, Lakshman.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to create a virtual machine. So it means, as I said, I want to create a resource with a so and so configuration of, let's say, 8 GB of RAM, or maybe 2 CPU, or maybe 30 GB of storage, and so on. This is something that what a configuration. So of course I can select a different configuration also that we can see, but let me see what will happen, right? So I'm going to create a virtual machine resource. So in order to create the resource, as I explained yesterday, so always when you actually can look at this Azure basically has a subscription. Yeah. So you have a subscription structure, and under the subscription, you basically have resource groups, which are actually called RG. So in the so this is basically called a resource group, and then under which you have multiple resources. Okay, so this is basically the structure, how it looks like. But there is also one more structure we will discuss when it comes to identity and governance. But for now, let us just understand this is the basic structure, that how it looks like whenever you are actually creating the resources in Azure. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a virtual machine. So as I said, an RG is nothing but a resource group is nothing but it is a collection of the resources that you want to group together. So that is only the meaning of resource group. You want to group them together. So logically, that is actually called as a resource group. So now what I'm actually going to do it, I'm going to create a resource, which is actually called a virtual machine. So please keep an eye that what I am actually doing. So when you click on this create a resource and you go on here, if you don't find the resource here, you can also search, like you can actually search here, but you can also go here and then click on this create. Okay, so as soon as you click on create, you can see a virtual machine. So you can see that this is basically a virtual machine window from where you actually can create your virtual machine. So now, as soon as you started creating your virtual machine, what you have got, you actually have got a subscription. So it means, as I told you, whenever you are creating the resources, those resources should be tied up to a particular subscription. Because whenever you are creating the resources, the subscription should actually compute the billing of the resources that you have created. That is the reason why always you create the resources under the subscription. That is the reason why you can see in the first place, you can see the selection of the subscription. Okay, and this is a subscription which I have. So you can select the subscription, and then you can see that if you don't have a resource group, then you have to create one. As I told you, what are the resources that you are actually creating, those resources, you should group them as a resource group. So you are actually grouping couple of resources as a group, and you are calling it as a resource group. So that is the reason why it is actually showing. So you can simply say, I want to create one. So what I want to do, I want to create my resources. So I'm just giving the resource group name as my resources. Okay. So my resource group name is my resources. I have created one, and come down. If you can basically come down here, it is also asking for the name, which name you really want to provide. Okay. So I want to provide a name called, maybe let's say my VM. Okay. So the name of the virtual machine is my VM. And then the region, which is very, very important. And yesterday I told you, whenever you are actually creating the resources, please keep in your mind that based on the regions that you select, your resources pricings basically changes. So that is already I actually discussed yesterday. So this is something that what you also have to keep in mind whenever you are actually creating the resources. And then here you can see that I selected UK South, because UK South is bit, not expensive at this moment. Okay. So you can basically see the UK South I have selected as a region. For example, now you want to see a region based virtual machine cost in Azure. So maybe you can, if you can search in such a way, you actually can get the details based on the region. So for example, if you can see, if you can look at here, so based on the resource region, you can see that how much per hour they will actually charge you. Okay, so this is something that how you can see, and I'm selecting UK South and I have selected this. So available options for now, you just leave it. You just leave it. You select only no infrastructure redundancy. Please select this no infrastructure redundancy, but we will talk about this availability later in detail. Okay, and then the security type. So you can see here the security type by default is selected as standard. It means if you want more security for your resources, then you will be selecting different kind of security standards. But for now, I'm actually going with a basic level of the security for my virtual machine. Okay, then this is something that what you also have to understand. So if you can look at here, the image, what exactly the image is. So the image is nothing but, for example, let's say you want your VM to be installed, to be pre-installed with a particular Windows version of the operating system, or you want your laptop, you want your virtual machine to be pre-installed with Linux operating system. You want your VM to be pre-installed with Mac, right? So you have your different choices that you can choose which operating system that you want, that you actually can say that it is basically a image which is already available. Okay, you simply select which image you want. So for now, what I'm trying to say, I'm actually saying that Windows Server 2019, okay, which is the operating system that I want, which is the latest version of the Windows. So I would like to go with this particular image. Okay, and you already know that we have different kind of platforms for the operating system that you select. I have selected 64. So if you can look at here, the other platform is not supported with this particular image which you have selected. Okay, so this is something what you have to select and come down. This is pretty much important even for your cost factors also. So as I told you, I want a configuration for my virtual machine. So if I want the basic configuration, let's say I want only a 4 GB of RAM, just only one CPU, or maybe 20 GB of the storage, so you can select it. If you want more details with respect to the sizes, you can actually click on here and it will basically display all the sizes which are really available with Azure. Okay, so you can see different kind of images which are available. So VM sizes available based on the size that you really need. Then you would select, and also based on the selection, the prices actually will go up and then will come down. Okay, so you can see here, we will talk about this max IOPS and what exactly it is and so on. But anyways, so you already know that I just want to select the basic, basic VM size. So I want to have a 8 GB of RAM, and I just want maybe a storage of 16 GB and something like that. So I just want to go for a basic model, and I'm selecting here, and then you actually can go here. So there is a button, so which is not visible here. You can go and you can select here. Okay, so you can select it, then you actually get, and you also see the price per month, that how much you will be charged in order to really use this configuration for a month. But of course, this, if you run it completely 24/7 every day for a month, then the prices basically change. So if you just only run for a moment or maybe for a half an hour and so on, then the prices basically change, right? So this is what exactly what it means. It means you pay for whatever your usage is basically that you are doing. Okay, and then I want to actually give some username and password. So I will give let's say a deployer. So that this is the username, and I want to give some password, and go here and go here. Yeah. And then I've given my password. So inbound port rules. So let us skip this for now. We will understand what exactly this inbound port rules, but we will discuss in detail with respect to this inbound port rules, and then come down a bit. So if you just come down, you see that there are really lots of tabs available, right? So you have disks, you have networking, you have management, you have monitoring, you have advanced, you have tags, and so on, right? So now, if I actually go to disks, you can see there are few options. I'm not actually going to discuss about these options, but we will discuss these options in detail when the disk concept comes into picture. And also networking and management, whatever we have options here, I'm not actually going to discuss right away. We will discuss them in detail in the later sessions. But for now, what I try to do it, I simply go and say review and create it. I clicked on this review and create it. And as soon as I click on this review and create it, you can see how much you will be charged per hour. Okay, so this would be the price that you will be charged per hour. So if it is okay, and also you get lots of information, which region that you have selected, what is the resource group, and so on, and all these details, and you simply go and click on this create. Okay, so you can see as soon as you have selected of really review and create, it is actually validating whether you have passed all the required information or not. And then based on the information, it will validate and say that this is valid, and you actually can go and create your resource, whatever you need it. Okay, now what I want to give you some surprise here. So let me just give you that surprise as soon as we create the resource. So one thing you have to remember, what I'm doing, I'm only creating one VM. Okay, so I'm creating what? One VM. A VM is nothing but a virtual machine, which is a kind of compute machine that you want to take. So I want to create one VM. Okay, but as soon as this VM is created, can you see this? So you are done. You have created a VM in the cloud. So let me just go to my resource. Yes, I went there, right? So where it is created, guys, this is created in the resource group. Okay, which resource group? This is a resource group. Let me click on this resource group, and I've been switched to the resource group that I have. Okay, now when you see here, as soon as I actually look at my resource group, can you see how many resources which are created? Did you really create all of them? You only want one resource, which is actually your virtual machine. But there are different kind of resources are actually created in which location? In the UK South, along with your VM. Okay, so let me see what basically the resource type is created. The public IP. So we don't know what is the public IP now, but of course we will understand that. And there is a security group and virtual network interface, disk, and so on. Right? These are all basically the resources are actually created as a part of your deployment. This is actually called as a deployment. So you can also see the notification that you always receive, and you can see here that whenever you create a resource, you will get the notification here. And then, but let me just quickly explain why these many of the resources are actually created as a part of my VM creation. That is pretty much important for us to really understand. So when you go to your VM, so as I said, this is a cloud. So which cloud it is? This is a Azure cloud. So when you have this Azure cloud, you can see here in the Azure cloud, you have a storage here. Yeah. And you have a RAM here, for example, shared memory. Yeah. And you also have, let's say, What else? CPU. Yes. So you can see there are also other resources such as public IP and whatever, right? So I'm not actually going to talk about this public IP and so on, but I will talk about it in a bit. But you see, whenever you purchase a laptop, let's say this is a laptop, right? This is a laptop. And whenever you purchase a laptop, how do you purchase? You purchase based on the storage, based on the RAM, based on the CPU, and so on. So the same way, if you purchase a laptop, you are actually getting everything, right? You are getting a storage, you are getting a RAM, you are getting CPU. Can you purchase without a store? Can you purchase a laptop without a storage? Can you purchase a laptop without a RAM, shared memory? Can you purchase a laptop without a processing unit? Not really, right? If you say a system, if you say your laptop, if you say a virtual machine, it should contain all these resources. Okay, so it means whenever you are creating a VM should have the storage, VM should have the RAM, VM should have the processing unit, and also you have called an IP, and you also have a network, right? So and so on. So there are other resources, NSG. But we will understand these topics in detail. But for now, you should be able to understand that whenever you actually create a VM, that you are actually creating even other resources such as storage, RAM, CPU, and so on. That is the reason why you can see here you have created a hard disk. Yeah, you have also created a virtual machine. Inbuilt, it also has the RAM and everything. But we will see why these resources are actually created. Okay, so now let us basically talk about a bit with respect to this virtual network. Okay, I'm not actually going in depth regarding this virtual network because we have a separate topic, which is validated in the exam. So we will discuss that topic later in detail. But what exactly the virtual network is, something like that, right? So when you buy a laptop, right? When you buy a laptop, what you have, you basically also have NIC. What is that? Network interface card, which you can connect your wired network, right? Wired network. So if you want to connect a Wi-Fi with wiring, then you should be connecting to this NIC port, network adapter port. Okay, so it means that you want to connect your laptop with this NIC port. So whenever you are taking a VM, you should also get the NIC, right? You should also get the NIC the same way you are getting for your laptop or the desktop. So this is something that what you also get along with your VM. Okay, now the point is, let's say you are only getting one NIC whenever you purchase a laptop. Let's say you want one more NIC. You want one more adapter also. You want two NICs. Okay, which is basically called network adapters. You will connect, different wired connections for the communication. Okay, so let's say you have two NICs. What? You have two NICs. So now let me go and see if I actually go to my VM. Yeah, so I went into my VM and I went into the networking section, and you can see here there are two basically IPs. There are two basically NICs are actually looking here. One is meant for the NIC public, and one is meant for the NIC private. We will see that in detail. What is a public IP and private IP? I don't want to make you confused at this moment, but we will discuss that in detail. But it means that you have two NICs which you have got along with your VM. Okay, so it means whenever you basically take a VM, and you actually can get two NICs. So if you ask me, can I get one more? Yes, of course. If you want, you can also get one more. But anyways, that's not the topic for now. So this is something that you have got two NICs. But what exactly this virtual network is all about. For example, if I actually go to my resources section again, I'm getting confused. What is exactly this virtual network? Why do I need it? Why do I need it? So you need it because you can see Azure Cloud contains, lots of VMs, right? Lots of VMs. Let's say there are 1 lakh of VMs, okay, already exist. And for every VM, so let's say when there are lots of VMs actually in the Azure cloud, so they all basically get connected via a network, via a network. What is this network? This is called virtual network. So whether you have one VM, or whether you have 1,000 VMs, whether you have 1 lakh VMs, for everything there is by default a virtual network is created. So for example, let's say if you create 2 VMs and you have a network, you have a virtual network created. What? Virtual network created. That is the reason why whenever you basically have created one virtual machine, by default, there is also a virtual network created. But you can ask me why I need this virtual network. I don't need this. But this is needed because that, for example, let's say this is a different network, this is a different region of the virtual machines that you want to connect, to different VM, right? Then what you need a network. You need a network. So there is a different region that you want to connect to different VMs, that you need a network. So it means in the cloud, everything, whatever the VM that you basically create, by default, that is actually bound to a default virtual network. Okay, a default virtual network. So whether you want it or you don't want it, by default, a VM should have its own virtual network, so that whenever you want to create, communication between different VMs, you can do so. Okay, so that is the reason why, since you have created virtual mission, you also have seen that virtual network is also created. So don't be confused. Okay, and you can also see the network interface, as I said. So whenever you take a laptop, what you also get the network interface, right? Then you actually can connect to wide Wi-Fi or whatever you want to do. So this is basically a network interface which is basically available for us. Okay, so this is something that why these are actually created. And you also see, we also know that we need a storage. So that is the reason why the disk is also created. And then you can also see what exactly this public IP. The public IP is also necessary, but it is not compulsory. Okay, so what exactly it means? So let's say the Azure cloud. Okay, so where I have created my VM, so I have created in the UK South, right? So I've created UK South, in the UK South. So I have my VM. This is my VM, and I am located in India. I am located in where? I am located in India. Now, what I want to do, I want to access this VM, right? Because that VM is created somewhere in other region of the country. I want to access it. But how do I access it? I want to access via public network, which is called internet, right? I want to access my VM via public network, which is internet. So when I want to access my VM, which is located somewhere via public network, what do I need? I need a public IP. I need a public IP. So that is the reason why you have a public IP is actually created in here. So now, whenever you really want to access your VM via your public network, then you should have a public IP created even for your virtual machine. But you might be asking, what is an IP address? IP address is nothing but a kind of identification number, I would say for now, but we will discuss a bit later this IP address topic. So this is just a kind of identity for any virtual machine that you will actually access. Okay, so now whenever you want to access your VM through the public network, you need a public IP attached to this particular VM. So that is the reason why you have here public IP also attached to this particular VM. And then let me just come down again to this network security group. So as I said, when you have this public IP, you want to connect via your public network, which is actually called as internet, right? Which is internet. So you are the person who created this VM, right? Let's say I'm the person who want to access it. If I know public IP, can I access? Can I access? So can I access? Yes, of course, if you know the public IP, you can access. Yeah, but how do you allow? How do you allow? Though you have your public IP here, how do you allow to access via your public network? Via this NSG. This is basically called network security group. A network security group is a group which contains rules to allow the network for the access or disallow the network to access. So let's say, though you have a public IP, it does not mean that you can access this VM. Though you have a public IP, if you don't have proper rule, proper NSG rule, network security group rule in place, you cannot really access which is located in other region of your VM. So that is the reason why by default this NSG network security group also created. Okay, so I hope you are pretty much clear that why these resources are created. So as I told you, this is a virtual machine that what we have created, and also you can see whenever you create a VM, by default it will also create the public IP address. But if you don't want, you can actually select, but we will see that selection later. And NSG is basically network security group, which is a group which contains rules to allow the traffic to access the virtual machine or not. And network interface is a resource again, which is bound to your VM. So as I told you, as I explained, every laptop, every desktop, whatever you use, it has a network interface. The same way your virtual machine also has this network interface. And also with respect to this virtual network by default, it gets created. Whether you create one VM or 10 VMs, you basically have to have this virtual network in place. Excuse me. So this virtual network, we will discuss. There is a separate topic in the exam also. This is also one of the topics that we really have to cover. So this virtual network is also important whenever you create a virtual machine. So as I said, the disk is also important because whenever you create a VM, it requires also the storage to be created. Okay, now let me just go through a few things here. So when I actually see the overview, so you can see here, you can see the activity log. So the activity log is pretty much important being the Azure administrator, because this is where you check what are the activities are actually done on particular resource. For example, let's say in your company, you have created a particular VM. Okay, you have created a particular VM and somebody basically made a shutdown. They basically shut down the VM. So they stopped VM. So then how do you see that, who did what? Then you actually can come to the activity log of that particular resource, and then you can see that these are the logs, these are the activities done on particular resource. So this is pretty much, you can see who did really this event, and in which subscription at what time and so on. This is something that what you can see, which operation is done by which person and who really did and when it was done. Okay, and the other stuff, so we will discuss these topics, and maybe I would like to also discuss these tags. So let's say what exactly these tags are meant for. The tags are actually meant for identification for a particular resource, what exactly it means. So if you can look at here, I have created a VM. Okay, so I want to give this VM to IT, maybe the audit department. There is a department in my company. So what is the department? Audit department. So this audit department, they have to use this VM. I will create one more VM. Okay, I will create this VM. I will assign this VM to maybe, let's say, administration department. Okay, so administration department. So I will create one more VM and I will assign to a different department. So it means, how do you basically differentiate between these different VMs? So by giving a particular tag, for example, let's say you can give a tag like department equal to audit. And for this, department is equal to administration, department is equal to different department, and so on. So this is also pretty much important whenever you are actually working in the organizations, in the companies. Okay, please make sure that you also follow this proper tagging of the resources, so that somebody knows that this particular VM is used by a particular department. Or for example, you are using VM for a particular project, then you can also give the details of that particular tag, so that somebody knows that this particular VM should not be touched by other department. Okay, now if you just go to the other overview, you can see here these are pretty much options you have. You can see if you want, you can also delete the whole resource group from here. Okay, so but before that, what I want to show, let me just go to my VM here. So when you go to VM, so you can see multiple options here. Okay, so if you want to connect to your VM, so we are going to connect it from this particular tab where we have this connect option. So we have multiple connect options that we actually see. And also you can see the restart. You want to restart your system, you can also do it. And you want to stop your VM. And remember one thing, if you basically stop your VM, then your VM will be stopped and your billing will be stopped for the period that you really stopped using your resources. There is one more important point that I actually forgot to let you know, that from the point of view of Azure, so these are really different resources for billing. So it means what exactly it means. So when you create a VM, so you will create also a disk, which is actually a storage, right? For Azure, the disk is also billing resource. So there will be a separate billing for this disk. And there will be a separate, billing for this public IP address. Okay, so this is how the Azure cloud provider will calculate your billing. So please make sure that you did not use pretty much expensive resources for your resource creation, but at least, yeah, this is just an important information for you. So then let me again go back to my VM. And then, as I told you, as soon as you stop, it means that you have stopped your VM. But remember, if you stop your VM, it does not mean that you are not charged for disk. The disk is a separate resource, so you will be charged as long as you keep that disk. Okay, so if you remove the disk, then you are not charged. Unless you remove this disk and other resources, you are basically charged. Okay, now if you also can see that you can also delete the individual resource from here. So this is something that delete. And most importantly, that there are different ways of really creating a resource. So you can see there is an option here. There is an option, a client CLI. So you can see this is basically called Cloud Shell. So a Cloud Shell is a command line interface. You can see as soon as you click on this, it will basically create a Cloud Shell for you. But you can see here, as soon as you want to create this Cloud Shell, what it is doing, it is actually asking you to create a storage. Okay, it is asking you to create a storage. Remember, this storage, as long as you keep the storage, this is also billable resource. But anyways, I will actually create one. Okay, I will create the storage, because the reason why it is asking us to create a storage, because whatever the operations that we do in the Cloud Shell, there will be, if you have few files to store, those files will be stored in the storage. That is the reason why this storage is actually being created. Please make sure that whenever you create a storage, then you are also billable for that. Okay, and now you can see that if you basically start a Cloud Shell, you can see PowerShell. There are two command line interfaces that you can use in the Cloud Shell. One is a PowerShell, the other one is a Bash. Okay, so you can select whatever the Cloud Shell that you are comfortable with, and then you can basically use the Cloud Shell in order to perform whatever the operations that you want to do. So it means you want to create a resource, you want to delete a resource, you want to change the resource, and so on. So you can actually do that. Okay, so as I told you, if you basically select PowerShell, you have to use the PowerShell commands. If you basically select Bash, you have to use the Bash command. Okay, but anyways, now how many ways that you actually can really create the resources? So you can create using different command line interface. You can see there is a command line interface called Azure CLI. Okay, so you click on this Azure CLI, so through which you can also run a different commands. For example, let's say Azure CLI to create resource group, a simple resource group. You can actually go and click on this. You come down, and I'm actually coming down. You see there are really pretty much lots of commands available with respect to Azure command. So I simply take one example here, and I will go and copy this Azure CLI command, and then go to my PowerShell. Yeah, so you can see, irrespective of the PowerShell or Bash, if you execute AZCLI command, they will work. So for example, I am creating a resource group called my resource group, and in which location I want to use? I want to use West Europe. Okay, so I want to use West Europe, and you want to use AZ group create -L, and you are basically passing the name of the resource group, and simply go and click on that. You can see that AZ group resource group is created. If you want to verify, you can also verify. So I'm just opening in a new window so that I can show you in a full screen. And you can see that if I actually go to my subscription, under the subscriptions, you can basically go to your resource group section, and then you can see my, just a moment, let me just refresh it. So you can see that my resource group is actually created via AZ CLI, which is called Azure CLI. Okay, so from here also you can do lots of operations. The reason why I told you, this is pretty much a new option that I can see in the so here you can see CLI, PS. So for example, if I actually go to my resources and my VM, and then if I go to CLI, PS, you can see this is also giving you all the commands with respect to the operations that you want to do. So for example, you want to stop your VM, right? You simply take an example from the Azure portal itself. Okay, so this is pretty much what you really can also utilize when you really want to do in the command line. So you can see if you want to start a VM, you want to basically shut down a VM, you want to auto shut down a VM and so on, you can really make use of the CLI PS commands from, the display that we actually can see here. Okay, so this is with respect to what CLI, but we will basically create many resources in the Azure CLI also, and also we create from here. Okay, so then you can also see that size of the virtual machine that you have created. You can see the configuration that you have, and also the location you have, and the subscription you have, and the subscription ID. These are pretty much important. And also you see the virtual network and so on. Okay, so this is basically with respect to the basic information that you should know. Now it is a time for me to really connect to a VM. Okay, so now as I told you here, what I actually told you, I'm basically located, in the Germany, and I'm accessing a VM which is located in the UK South. So how do I access? I want to access using my public IP, which is basically available for a VM. So from where I can actually get the public IP, from here you actually can get the public IP. Okay, so anyways, if you really don't want to use this, so you can use, remember this is a Windows machine. So if you want to connect a Windows machine, what you can do, you can simply use RDB service, remote desktop service. Okay, so RDP, you can click on this RDP. Okay, as soon as you click on this, what you need to do, you do not need to do anything. You click on this download RDB file, but remember this port number. So we will have to discuss this port number here, 3389. Okay, so download RDB file, and as soon as I downloaded, I've got RDB file here. I'm just trying to click on this. Okay, so as soon as you click on this, so it is asking me to connect to the VM. Okay, so now I want to give a VM. So I'm sorry. So what is the name I've given? Deployer, and this is the password I've given. You can see as soon as I've given my credentials, username and password, I am able to log in into my VM, which is basically located in somewhere in the UK South. Okay, so that is the reason why you need a public IP in order to access a resource from the public network. So that is the reason why these many of the resources really created as a part of your virtual machine. Okay, so this is something with respect to what I really would like to discuss today, but we will also discuss a few more things. You can see here the way that you actually can get your virtual machine. So nowadays, if you really want to use for temporary, that you do not need to buy a laptop or anything, you can simply use the VMs which are actually available in the cloud. But yeah, anyways, this is just the kind of information for you. Okay, so this is something that how you can basically connect to your VM, and these are the details, the basic details that with respect to this VM creation. But anyways, we will discuss step by step, and we will cover topic by topic. So this is with respect to what is the third demo that we really have with respect to this Azure cloud administration. So I hope you understand today's topic, and what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to close this remote desktop, but I'm actually going to give you one more tip. Please make sure whenever you really create the resources, go to subscription and then go to resources and select all of them and then delete them. So if you forget to delete, then you are basically built. So please make sure that you have remembered to really delete the resources as soon as you really have created it. Okay, so this is something that what is really with respect to a virtual machine creation and the basic resources that what are created associated with the virtual machine and so on. Okay, so now it is a time for you guys to really ask me the questions, then I try to help you out with the answers. So from Monday, you will have a new link generated for those who enrolled. So they will be getting a new link. So just an information.
Lakshman sir, to get a job as a Azure cloud architect, this 104 certificate is sufficient or?
Absolutely. So the only thing, the point is somewhere you really have to start with Azure. So you cannot really become a solution architect, right? So you don't know what exactly the architect really does it. So if you really start with basic administration, Azure cloud administration, then you will come to know how really the architecture really works in the real time. Then you can be a solution architect later. But I would suggest to actually go with the Azure administration, and in further on, you can also go for a different roles if you want.
Understood, but to secure a job in the markets, which way would be the best thing with certification? Because just 104, maybe the employers may not be interested to recruit me.
No, I don't really believe that. So
Okay.
I've even for my projects. So I have
Mm-hmm.
recruited many people. For those who really are good at this Azure, and I will come
Mm-hmm.
to know the person is really good at this Azure technical stuff or not. It does not
All
matter
right.
whether he has this certification or not. So
All
if you
right.
know the if yeah, so if you have the certificate, it does not mean that you really have good knowledge, right? So that basically matters for me.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So any other questions, guys?
Hello.
Okay. So I
Hello.
hope you, yeah, Vijay, yes, go on.
Sir, how to authenticate other persons to allow to for that virtual machine, suppose?
That we will see, Vijay. So we have lots of topics really to
Okay.
discuss. So we are really pretty much in the beginning now. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So we have lots of topics as I told you.
Okay, sir. And about the RAM, suppose we have in laptop some lesser RAM, and in our virtual machine we have and selected more RAM than our laptop RAM. So
Mhm.
will it be okay? Means it will be. Does it have any problem?
I don't really get it what you mean. So see, the VM that I have selected, which is basically available in the internet in the Azure cloud. Our laptop is our laptop, which does not do anything with the virtual machine that you have created in the cloud. Okay, so you
Oh,
can select whatever you want, you can opt whatever you want, and you can do so for sure.
okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So any other questions, guys? Sir, same thing happens. My card holder name is not taken, so I can't really help you with that. So you have to use the right card. So, okay, guys, then I'll see you on Monday and we will continue with the rest of the topics. Okay. If you don't have any questions, shall we, do we need Python or scripting knowledge? Not really, I would say, because as I said, whatever you are actually operating, creation of the resources and so on, you are doing with the help of the documentation from the Microsoft. But I would recommend to at least know some if conditions and for loop. That's it. There are many guys I know that who are really working. They really don't have a scripting knowledge, but still they are actually working as cloud engineers and cloud architects and so on. So it is not necessarily every time that you need a scripting, but you should know the basic understanding, the flow of the scripting and basic if and for loop conditions, and that is more than enough.
Sir, we can create a VM in Linux also, right?
Yes, we can do that. Yes.
Okay, not only in Windows.
Yes.
And will it be will there be any billing, extra billing for that or something?
As I told
Linux?
you, as you select the image and the charges are basically different, you have to look at the pricing charts, and based on the pricing charts and whether you want a VM with this image or not, it is up to you. So it all basically you basically choose what you want. When is the new batch going to start? Any update on this, sir? This is a new batch. I don't know what you are asking, Haripriya. So this is a new batch which we have started. Two demos are actually complete, and this is the third demo that we have given. And from Monday, these will be the continuous classes. So this is a new batch. Do you get it? Yeah. Any other questions, guys? I see Sai Vivek is back. I think he's pretty much excited with this IAC, infrastructure as a code.
Yeah, yes, Lakshman, I'm back.
Yeah. So
You will be teaching that IAC in this part also. I mean, as I know
yes,
that in the DevOps you had been going to
yes,
explain that part.
yes, we are actually going to discuss many, because you are the Azure DevOps batch, not the Azure administration, right?
Got it. I think we thought that we discussed on the weekends like that part because it's an advanced part you had told that on past.
Yeah, I mean, I told you, but let's see how this works, Vivek. So sometimes last time I had a bad experience that I have given a schedule on Saturday,
Yeah,
and
Saturday that
I
two
could
members
see
has
there
been
are
attended.
so I was not really happy. Then I don't want to waste my time on weekends. So
Okay.
any other questions, guys?
And Lakshman, one thing I need to know that it's not in the admin part. I'm asking about the DevOps. So in the DevOps, we are using the Docker and Kubernetes or only the
Yes.
pipelines like
Yes,
that?
we are also going to use Docker and Kubernetes. Yes.
Okay, so you were explaining that part also. I think I
Yes.
had missed some of the classes because my job, shifts has been changed.
But as I told you, for you guys who joined this Azure DevOps, really it's a lucky batch because you are getting the whole Azure administration and also the Azure DevOps.
That we are the lucky persons.
So I would say, but it's okay for me. I mean, basically, if you guys are learning with interest, then I don't have any problem.
And coming to the operations, whatever the demo, I mean, Docker and Kubernetes we are using here, the same operations we can use it in the AWS also, no?
Yes, yes. Only the naming conventions will change, as I
Naming
told you.
conventions. Okay then. And the YAML pipeline, everything looks, the format operations of the format and everything looks same.
So the topic is same. So the
Okay.
topic basically does not change. The tools basically change. The way that we operate basically changes. For example, if I talk about this VNet, and that is basically VPC
Yeah,
AWS.
yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
so
got it.
there's only the topic, the naming convention changes.
Okay. So here we are using the VMs, there we are using EC2 like that part.
Yes,
That's it.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
got it.
yes.
Got it, Lakshman. And one thing, Lakshman, what are the notes you are showing to us? If it's possible, can you please share that notes to Ashok IT, because we can see that the notes part in the backup videos like that part.
Yes, yes, I also have seen that. I really forgot to upload there. But anyways, are you not able to access via this GitHub, because this is publicly accessible? You
Yeah,
can
we
download it.
accessible. Yeah, we can
Okay.
accessible, but we need to go every time and we need to check up your GitHub
No,
repositories and
no,
everything.
not really, right? You are actually downloading once.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if at all,
got
yeah,
it. That part.
yeah. If at all there are contents updation, then I will let you know. Then you will have to download. Even that is the same thing with the Ashok IT notes section also. If there is
Yeah,
anything new
exactly.
that I've added, then you are again downloading them.
Yep, got it, Lakshman.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, then I think if there are no any questions with respect to the technical stuff, then I can wind up the call today and we can meet on Monday, right? And you guys will get the new link. Please make sure that you are in touch with Ashok IT for this new link. Okay. Yeah. See you then. Bye.
Yeah,
Good
bye, Lakshman.
evening. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, bye, sir. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.